Welcome back to another football preview. I'm Andy Hewling, joined by Delaney Barrow and a special guest, Nathan King of the Plainsmen. Nathan, how are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Yeah, for sure. Delaney, how about you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for another weekend of football on the Plains.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into it. So it's the Deep South's oldest rivalry, and it's one of the biggest games between these two schools dating back since 1892. Delaney, what are you thinking, and what is your initial reaction for this game?
Well, it'll be a big matchup. Georgia leads the all-time series, but for the second year in a row, this game does have playoff contention.
Nathan, what about you?
Yeah, the same. I mean, like she was saying, this game is big for both these teams' playoff hopes. Obviously, Auburn's path to the playoff is a lot more narrow than Georgia's. If Georgia wins out, they've got 4 games to go and they're in. Obviously, that means they'd have to beat LSU in Atlanta, but it's going to start here. I think this is the biggest game of the season so far for Georgia. I know Florida was a big win for them, but this is only their second true road game since August, so it's going to be a big test to see how they can perform in Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people have been talking about Coach Malzahn's job situation. Do you think that this is a big game for him and just like keeping his job secure at the program?
Yeah, no doubt, especially with what's been happening with Arkansas the past week or so. I don't know how much credence I actually place into that for right now. I think if things go uphill for Auburn this season, they go 10-2, they sweep Amen Corner, they do what they need to do against Georgia and Alabama, I think he's plenty safe. I don't claim to know exactly what the threshold is that they're looking at. Which games does he need to win, which games could he lose and possibly be pushed out. But I don't think he's at all thinking about that at all. I don't think Auburn's thinking about that at all. They're just looking at the task at hand. Before the season, I kind of said like an 8-4 type season, you might be looking at Gus Malzahn, but I think it's going to depend on the type of 8-4. If they compete in these 2 games, maybe not. But if they kind of get blown out of the water, then you never know.
Delaney, what about you? Is Gus in trouble?
I think you nailed pretty much all of it. I know that he's comfortable and happy here, and he has put a lot into this program. So I think that it's not gonna ride on this game, I think.
Yeah, and so also going off of that, these last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of talk, just about the players and the team. Do you feel like Auburn has something to prove going into this game? Maybe just like with the fans leaving and just kind of everything that's been going on around the program.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what the players said about their comments after the game against Ole Miss is that they know that's not standard for Auburn. They know that's not standard for Auburn fans. They know that's not standard for Jordan-Hare Stadium. And what Jeremiah Denson said on Tuesday is, look, he was just calling everybody out. He knew that if he put that out there and said, look, we want to be truthful with y'all. We want to be honest. This is how we felt after that game. And I don't know about y'all. I've seen the response on Twitter from fans. They really feel like they're going to, quote, bring the juice. That's what Denson said for this game on Saturday. And I think offensively, Auburn's got a lot to prove as well because their 3 lowest games, their poorest games of the season have all been away from home, Oregon, LSU. In Florida, those were all great defenses. Now you play a great defense in Jordan-Hare Stadium. So you have a chance to figure out, okay, were those problems, were they with your offense or were they just Bo Nix in uncomfortable situations?
Yeah, Delaney, what about you?
I think, like you were saying with the fans, I know that in Auburn's game day email they said in weather forecast, so if the weather was part of the problem, hopefully that'll be resolved. But I definitely think because it's such a big matchup, the fans should definitely show up this weekend.
Yeah, so now let's get into kind of the matchup perspective. Delaney, who's a player that you really look out for either Auburn or Georgia?
I think UGA running back DeAndre Swift, currently 3rd in the SEC in rushing yards, and he's really just been a standout player so far this year.
What about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I'd stay with Georgia. Jake Fromm and those receivers. I know that they were kind of looked at as a weak point, and Georgia loses their top 5 pass catchers from last season. But Lawrence Cager, the Miami grad transfer, he's leading them in receiving. And then a guy named George Pickens that a lot of people know about here on the Plains. He was a signing day flip from Auburn to Georgia. That's a guy you're going to be looking out for. I'm sure he's going to hear it from fans on game day, but he's been a really prolific receiver. Jake Fromm has kind of been viewed as having a down year, but when he's on, and he can really pick his spots in the defense.
So let's get into the keys of the game. Delaney, we'll go with the Auburn side for you. What are Auburn's keys to winning this game?
I think the major key for Auburn is going to be capitalizing. 2 weeks ago when they played Ole Miss, they had 500-plus yards of offense, but they only scored 20 points. And Bo Nix had 340 career high passing yards. So as long as they can capitalize and turn those yards into points, I think that they'll have a really strong chance at this game.
And Nathan, what are Georgia's keys to winning this game?
Yeah, I think Georgia's keys, the main key for me is for them to not get intimidated.
Gus Malzahn is historically really effective after bye weeks. He's, in fact, undefeated as a head coach, no matter where he's been. But he's never played a team like Georgia coming out of a bye week. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't start fast. I think he's going to have a good script for Auburn to start this game. I think they're going to score points in this first quarter. But that's a stonewalling Georgia defense. I think they'll pick it up as the game goes on. I think the key for Georgia to win this game is going to be for them to not get overwhelmed by Auburn's hot start on offense, which I expect, and the crowd overall. They can't let that get to them too much.
For sure. And Nathan, what is your prediction for this game?
Yeah, so I think that Auburn's offense, like I was saying before, it's kind of at a crucial juncture right now where the question has to be answered, have the poor performances against good defenses been a product of the environment? Has it been conditional, or has it just been the fact that it's not an offense that can show up in those kind of games? Now the playing field is kind of leveled, per se. You're at a home field advantage. You're against the best defense in the conference, one of the best defenses in the country. Like I said about Gus Malzahn, I think Auburn will score in the first quarter. I expect them to kind of get out to a bit of a lead. The key from there is can Georgia catch up? Can Georgia kind of level things by halftime and then take it away in the second half? I think Auburn's defense is just downright too mean and nasty to allow that to happen. I think they'll get after Jake Fromm. I would trust Jake Fromm down the stretch a little more than Bo Nix because he's more experienced. He's going to be an NFL quarterback one day. But I just think the defense is going to give them too much in the second half. Auburn's lead at the beginning of the game is going to be too much to overcome. I've got Auburn 24-17.
Okay, Delaney, what about you?
I think that it's going to be a very defensive game. I think that UGA is going to pull out and win by a touchdown, but I don't think either team will score more than 30 points.
Yeah, I have a low-scoring affair as well. I think Auburn will win. Like you said, Nathan, the defense has really been the star of this season, and the offense has been there at times, but it's just whether or not they can kind of get over that hump. And I think this game, especially like you said, the bye week, having time to rest and really work on things, I think Auburn can get the win and will be looking to knock off Alabama in hopes of a college football playoff appearance maybe. So for our football preview, thank you for joining us. I'm Andy Hewling, joined by Delaney Barrow and Nathan King, and we'll see you next week.